Welcome to
Separate Bathrooms and other handy marriage tips.
Hello and welcome to Separate Bathrooms. I'm Cam.
I'm Ali Dado, and we are super excited today.
I'm a little bit nervous because I'm the engineer here, and we're bringing a third person into our bathroom here, and I've got to make sure that it's recorded properly.
That's
so
right.
I'm a little tense about that.
Yeah, recording in the bathroom's not always easy, especially we've got triple separate bathrooms happening kind of in a way right now. But we have the absolutely delightful and gorgeous Georgie Parker with us today.
Yeah.
And you probably know Georgie from a multitude of shows, but somehow or another, Cam, you might know her a little better right now.
Yeah, well, we're working together on Home and Away, and this week I'm joining the Bay, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Yes.
And Georgie and I have become pretty good mates. We met a number of years ago. We did a show together, like a TV movie called Scorched. You might have seen that one. And now we are working quite closely together on Home and Away. And we wanted to talk with her about her relationship. She's been an actor for many years.
Yeah.
Been married for many years. Are you comfortable with sharing the bathroom with another woman, honey?
Well, see, the thing about sharing bathrooms with another woman, we do it all the time. Like the amount of times you're sharing a bathroom with women at movies, theaters, concerts, like not as in the stall, but women are constantly sharing bathrooms. It's where we often have good conversations with
a stranger,
with complete strangers. Yeah, it's quite delightful actually. So more than happy to share with Georgie.
Yes. I saw a meme the other day where two guys were standing in at a urinal in the toilet, and one of the guys, actually his pants were down by his ankles like a little boy taking a pee, and the guy would have been in his mid-30s. It was like, oh, come on, dude. Put your pants up. We don't spend a lot of time in bathrooms, fellas, together, usually.
That joke has gone completely over my head. But I'm sure it's funny to you, right?
Without further ado, let's bring Georgie into the bathroom.
Here she is.
You look bigger on TV. Did you make a special trip out here to buttonhole me? I'm sure there are other people you could harass. People who actually deal with the water supply.
Now, water is difficult. It's something people feel entitled to, like air. So, look, please take a seat. Would you like a cup of tea?
Oh, look, everyone has tea except for me. I should have brought that. Georgie Parker, welcome to our bathrooms, our separate bathrooms.
Yes, I think that's an essential thing for a happy couple.
Isn't it? I mean, we actually don't, it's called separate bathrooms. So Cam and I don't have separate bathrooms. We just tag team. If I walk in, he's in there. I walk quickly the other way.
I actually walk into the laundry to clean my teeth.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that men and women should have separate toilets.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Well, I agree with you, because it sounded kind of crass saying separate toilets and other handy marriage tips. It was better to have separate bathrooms.
I get it. Separate loos for number twos. I mean, see, it rhymes. It sort of writes itself.
It does. So, did you hear that? Separate loos for number twos? I think that could be the next podcast. No, that's if we're not going there.
No, that's what we're actually going to call this particular episode.
We're all trying to figure out how this is all working out, because Georgie, you're at your house, we're at our house, we're Zooming this all in for the first time. So you said we may be hearing birds in the background from you, which is quite sweet, but that's all right.
And cats.
And cats. Oh, nice.
And me occasionally.
Well, listen, we wanted to get you on. Obviously, you and Cam are now working together on Home and Away. And you have yourself been in a long-term relationship. And we just thought we'd get you on, and if you'd be open to talking about your relationship and your feelings about, the tips that you've learnt along the way. Were you up for that? I'm
up for that. I won't talk too much specifically about my husband because he's a very private person.
Yes.
Being a writer, he hasn't opted for the public path that I have.
Yeah.
I will talk, till I'm blue in the face about relationships and negotiations and compromises and, so yeah, I'm an open book. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy to go there and see what we can discover.
I actually think that's a really beautiful thing that you're protecting his privacy.
He protects me in certain ways too, so it's
Yeah.
reciprocal.
Can we give this man a name?
Sir Stephen. Steve Rawland is his name.
I know. I was saying, are we protecting him to the point where we're not even going to name him? He is like he who must not be named. How did you guys meet?
Well, actually, he went to the school down the road from me, but he was 2 years younger than me. So, when someone's 2 years younger than you, when you're 16, it's like they're 10 years younger than you. So I just didn't mingle with his year at all. And I did the school musical. And so he saw me in the school musical where I played Annie. And he thought to himself, what a doll, which is pretty funny, at 14. And then we didn't meet again until I was, 32. Yeah, so we met again when he was teaching a screenwriting course to a guy that I was dating at the time.
Wow, that's how lovely that you're you weren't exactly childhood sweethearts, but you did know each other in your childhood. We are actually, I know this is slightly off topic, but we were almost neighbours growing up because I'm a St Ives High girl and you're a St Ives girl too.
Yes. Oh my God, that is so weird.
Yeah,
isn't that? St Ives, small neighbourhood, at that time. It was like vineyards, and we had a horse in the back of our yard. Yeah, we were at the end of a battle axe, and our house was surrounded by other houses. And so we heard like 10 other houses' business, but down the back there was a paddock and there was a horse.
I was right by, was on Monavale Road, right by the Ku-ring-gai Wildflower Garden. So I spent my youth hiking the Wildflower Garden.
How divine. It was a very suburban upbringing.
Yeah,
but there was also a lot of physical freedom, which I really enjoyed. Yep. You had to hike it if you wanted to get anywhere that was vaguely meaningful.
So when you caught up with Steve later on, was there a lot of catching up to do in terms of all those growing up years? Because there's like 15 years in between that first meeting and then actually catching up with each other.
Oh, you're very good at actor maths. Yeah, it was about 17 years. And I don't know, because it wasn't until that we'd had about the second or third meeting when I became single, and then he kind of let his feelings be known that he knew me from school. He, thought had a bit of a sort of a schoolboy crush on the girl on stage, and it wasn't any lightning bulb moment. It was just a slow thing of, this was someone very different to whom I had dated before. And he was reliable and decent and interesting and well-read and just all these things that I wasn't aware that I was probably looking for. So it was a slow burn, but it was very timely.
Well, you were dating actors prior to that, so he must have seemed like a really normal guy.
Yeah, actors and directors. So it was a welcome break in the routine.
And it's been how long now?
24 years this year. Yeah, I want a medal.
You need one.
I think there's a medal in your future. Is there anything that you wish when you were, when you first met him or when you were younger that you sort of knew about relationships that you would have helped you, that you were like, God, I wish I knew that back then. That would have made things a lot easier?
I think it wasn't so much knowing things about them or relationships. I think it was about knowing myself and what I expected out of relationships and what I thought that should look like. I think especially as a woman, you get attracted to all sorts of people, and sometimes you are attracted to that person because those are the things you need to sort out or work out. I think you need to figure out your boundaries, what you're prepared to compromise on and what is not negotiable, and where you morally sit with someone else. And there are so many things that have to kind of fall into place, and then you have to be able to let those other things fall into place when you're together, and that's where you really find out what you're both made of, I think.
Yeah. And you've learnt this along the way, and has Steve evolved with you as well with all that?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely done his own evolving in his own way. Again, I'll keep him, I'll keep him in his room safely, tucked upstairs writing. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the only way you can survive as a couple, especially when you're going into your third decade and you've raised a child who's turning 20. And again, it's like, and you both keep changing. I mean, I think it's vital that you keep changing, and especially as you get older. It's not about getting old. It's about other things that become opportunities, or other things that become places in yourself that you want to discover more. You need to be with someone who's compatible with that, or who's supportive of that. We're very lucky. We have a solid friendship, which I think has really gotten us through everything.
Yeah, beautiful.
How about going through this time of like self-isolation? We've been at home for 6 weeks now. It's probably not that different to what we normally go through as actors and in the entertainment business anyway. But given there's a bit more stress because everybody's into it, it's not just us anymore. How have you guys handled those sticky moments of like where you're getting in under each other's skin?
I got to say, and I don't think we're a usual COVID story, but we've had a ball. Like, like we're loving it. Like, when his life hasn't changed at all, because he doesn't have a deadline at the moment and he doesn't have to do meetings. So he's in his room writing and delivering things to people. So his actual job hasn't changed, and he has been working his ass off. So my daughter is an artist, and she's basically an introvert. So she's upstairs painting. She's doing her online classes. She's catching up with the one friend and going for a walk around the park. So her life has sort of become what she would ideally like it to be, which is the world is quieter. Everyone's more thoughtful about what they're doing. And this is irrespective of stress and tension and, jobs. Just on the surface level for us, it's been really good. And I've never got to spend this much time at home, like ever. So I have relished it. I have really loved it. Having the fact that it's been enforced, I have tried to ignore. So I've tried to look at it as it's an option that I've decided to, uptake, and I've loved it. And also I've gotten to look after my mum and dad. My dad's just turned 90. My mum's, mid-80s. And I've been able to look after them and deliver food to them. And so I've enjoyed it. I mean, apart from the stress of money, which is, I don't have to explain that. I've just had to know that this isn't forever. And I'm good at knowing that this is for this time now and that it will end. And as long as we're all sensible, we'll be able to get back with adjustments to what we were doing.
Our time has been pretty good as well. We've had a similar experience with our kids being very introverted and happy to be doing school online. Our son's doing law and psychology, so he doesn't have to go from Strathfield to North Sydney in a day. And our little introvert eldest as well, she's an artist like yours, and she's just like, this is amazing.
It's like it's made for them.
It is. It really is. Our youngest, who's very social, she's the one that's probably battling the hardest. She needs a few friends around now to get that social fix. But
yeah, how have you find it? You between you and Cam?
I think we've really looked after ourselves, I think, individually in a lot of ways. Cam's very good at, he takes himself off swimming and hiking and golfing and doing that. And then I'll go and do my stuff that I need to do and then come back together in the afternoon for gin and tonic or something. But I think there's been we've headed into some difficult conversations. We talked about that last week. We had a pretty big blow up where the straws were kind of building and it almost broke the camel's back, but we were able to get through that, right, honey, and just have a big conversation, which was actually really good. It was really helpful.
Yeah. I mean, because if those feelings are there, it's undeniable, and you can't not confront it. I think that's the thing. It's not the problems that define you; it's the conversations that you have around the problems that define, your relationship.
Speaking of which, I mean, you've probably almost kind of answered this in a way, but When you and your husband do fight, how are you good fighters? How do you handle fights? How do you go about those? Or rather, how do you handle the aftermath rather than the actual fighting?
I see. This is where I think it's very important that you acknowledge how someone handles that confrontation and that conflict. Steve's not a huge lover of conflict, and it doesn't bring out the best in him. And so what I've got to do is place thought bubbles in his head. So if I have a problem with something and I figure out that, no, I'm going to need some adjustments here and that I won't be able to just, turn a blind eye, I just sort of have to lie it down and have a reasonable conversation with him about it. And, you might get a bit of denial or something, but he'll go away and think about it because that's what he needs to do it in private.
Yeah.
And then the behavior will change accordingly, or there'll be a few jokes about it. So there's no real blow-ups in our house. I was raised in a house with 3 kids and with a mother and father, and my mum's very much like, what the, so, and my dad's more of a door slammer. So yeah, I'm used to confrontation and I'm not uncomfortable with it. I do think there's effective confrontation, and I think it's very important that when you start getting emotional and start blaming each other, that's where it gets unhelpful and you're just going to get a lot of accusations. I think as long as the conversation can be emotional but helpful, then I think you're going to get even if it's a debate and a heated debate, I think it's very important that you know yourself well enough to own your own stuff, but that takes time and work.
Yeah, absolutely.
We talked we talked a little bit about that last week in our podcast, talking about how being comfortable to sit in the stir of a feeling, where instead of running away from it. But and then to know the limitations of what you need to do. Like you're saying, Steve likes to go into his corner. I'm the same. I'll go push a mower or go for a run or a surf or something and just allow that to whatever's been said to stick.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to accept everyone's process in that, because that would root back to childhood and the way conflict was resolved and the way you observed it and how you saw it affect your parents or whoever was in conflict. I think it always harks back to that because that becomes a blueprint for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, without a doubt. I grew up with divorced parents, but they lived in the same house. So there was a lot of, it was really difficult. And there was a lot of silence. There wasn't confrontation. There was just avoidance. And so that's my go-to mechanism. And I've had to fight that tooth and nail to just keep bringing myself forward when there's an issue rather than, and that's something that Cam goes, I'm chasing you down to find out what's going on. I'm like, I know, but I go into my silent mode in order to go into healing, and that doesn't always help the other partner. So,
and when you haven't seen effective conflict and you haven't seen the fact that someone can be pissed off for 10 hours but they can go back to having dinner and it's okay, that that conflict doesn't mean everything's going to burn down and you're not going to, you know what I mean, that it's just an argument. Exactly. And also you got to learn when it's time to leave it, where it's unhelpful to have the conversation, where it's like, oh, I've just got to leave that, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But Georgie, don't you find in that situation when you do leave it that when it rears its head again, and it is going to rear its head again, that you end up starting at the place that you left off really quickly?
That's when it's unresolved. I'm talking more about when it's something that you can't let go. When it's something that's you can't let go of and it pisses you off and you keep on trying to bring it up with the other person, but the other person's like, dude, I don't know why you're so upset. So that's when you've got to leave it because it's your stuff.
Yeah.
Driving and you manage to bring it up again in your head and you manage to get really angry about the same thing. You can go for 6 weeks. You can be pissed off about that person that took your car spot. And it's like, how could that person? And then you can tell yourself the same story every day for 6 weeks. And it can become this thing where it sets a tone of your mood. When you're talking about you've got to resolve conflict, absolutely, because it will always, it's like a dog that knows its way home. It will just come back and go, hey, remember me? So yeah, I absolutely agree with you that there are things to be left and there are things that have to be nutted out.
Yeah.
And usually the things to be left are like those, they're not usually big things. They're usually like, you know, who left the butter out on the dish again? You know what I mean? Didn't put it, you know what I mean? For me, there's usually those little things are just like, oh, just let it go and really let it go. But but then there's the bigger things where I'm like, oh, I can't leave this one on. This is a conversation starter.
Yeah, see, for me, I have always been pedantic about the smallest things, like not replacing a toilet roll or things like that. And then I read something, I don't know, a couple of years ago, you're a man, aren't you? Just take care of it. Just do it and shut up. If the kitchen's dirty, just go clean it. Don't make a comment. Just do it.
I know, because then it comes down to, well, actually, if the kitchen's dirty, I want it to be clean, so I'll do it. Rather than asking someone else to do what you would like to do, or making someone else responsible for what you would like to happen.
Or I'm not saying who, but some of us in the room might actually have a really big conversation in the shower with themselves and perhaps their invisible child or invisible wife, and nut out the full argument in the shower.
And then if
I don't know who that is.
And then if I'm working on a TV show, I'm running my lines with that invisible person. Oh, who happens to be on the screen right now?
Hey, that is so funny. A lot of people do that. I catch my husband and my daughter doing that. And I know I do it. You have arguments with people in the shower. It's always where you're standing and just not doing anything. You're standing there and you're nude and you're having an argument with someone.
Yeah, because you have the momentum of the water hitting your head, you see. You're actually on the move in some way.
Cam, you always win those arguments then, don't you?
Boss, of course. Hey, Georgie, what's the biggest challenge do you think you've faced in your marriage thus far?
I think actually negotiating having a baby and going back to full-time work, because I was doing All Saints and it was a massive hit at the time. And I had a baby and it was fairly late, and, you know, like I was 35 turning 36. And like I've got, you know, scoliosis, which is a huge issue, you know, curvature of the spine. And I have to work out a lot to try and keep my muscles strong enough to support my spine so I don't get into a lot of physio or, you know, a lot of painful difficulties. So I was trying to figure out how I recover my strength post, you know, birth. How do I handle this beautiful little 3-month-old baby? And how do I go back to 14-hour days? And, you know, we both were, you know, new to having children. I always wanted a child. I always wanted children. And so that was the most difficult time, I think, us negotiating how the extra person in our relationship changed our relationship and where the level of responsibility lay and the unspoken of, you know, tasks that needed to be done. And it's like, well, I guess I'll do them all. And then I had to acknowledge that I was trying to control the situation because I knew, you know, you know how you want things to be done. And so then you have to relinquish control and trust that it will be done. And so it was all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think that would be a pretty obvious obstacle for a lot of people.
It's interesting because you're kind of going against all those sorts of norms in the sense that as a mum, you should be sacrificing everything. You should be at home with the baby, and yet there you are. You've got an incredibly popular job. That's your job. You're an actress. And also the fact that you physically needed an enormous amount of care to heal your body in order to be healthy and then be the mum you need to be and the actress you need to be. So that's like a triple bunger challenge.
Yeah, it was a very difficult time. But then again, I'm kind of if there's a problem, I like to deal with it. I mean, I like problems. I like problem solving. Mm-hmm. I am not an avoider. And I can. In that respect, my A-type personality suited that particular set of problems. And then also the great gift of accepting what you just have to roll with. For all the control that I like having, I really love the unknown. which is a contradiction, but that's partly why I'm an actor. I love the unknown. I love the unexpected. And I love the fact that you can make all these plans and then all of a sudden it turns like COVID, you know, it goes a 180 and it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're doing this now. And that's actually been my biggest asset, I think, is being able to change course and make it work.
What would you say is your favorite thing about your husband?
Humor and intellect.
You'd say the same thing about me, wouldn't you?
I would, honey.
Yeah.
You would like me to say that. And what, if you had to guess, what do you think he would say about you? What would be his favorite thing about you?
My strength and my he really admires my strength and my work ethic. He really admires the fact that I don't back down from anything. And he's very proud of that. I mean, it's really interesting having someone being really proud of who you are. And also my loyalty. I'm a very good friend and I think I'm a good daughter. Yeah, I mean, I take those relationships seriously and I love them. So, yeah, I think he would say that.
You said that you like to fix things, and I know you like to be in control and know how things are going. And I know when we work together, though, that you don't mind it when we don't know where we're going. Like I find on Home and Away, our conversations on screen are very uncalculated, and that's why it's so fun working with you. And so how is that at home? Is Steve a bit of a fix-it guy? Because most men that I know, including myself, want to fix things. You know, if Ali comes to me with a problem, I want to fix it. So is he like that, or are you like that, or is it a bit of a blend?
I'm definitely like that. And if he's a great sounding board. He will give advice if I particularly ask for it, but most of the time I will just tell him the whole story about whatever's in my mind or something that I feel like I need to deal with, and he'll just listen. And he's always been really good at that. And he will give good advice, or he'll just back me up. So he's just incredibly supportive, no matter what's happening. Yeah, I mean, what was the other part of that question?
Well, it's just more about, I guess, so when you've got two people doing the same things, like if you're both wanting to fix, or maybe he's not, but you were talking about, I thought was really great before about, you didn't use the word, but I was thinking allowing, and you allow him to be who he is, and he clearly allows you to be who you are.
I am 1,000% myself, and it's fantastic. It's just, I just take it totally for granted that I'm not in any way compromising who I am, like in any way. And I've been in a lot of boyfriend relationships where I've realized I've had to do that to keep the status quo. And then they're always, you know, after 2 months or 6 months, I go, what the, you know, and I'd be out of there because, yeah, I'm someone who needs to be 100% genuine to who I am. And he's the same. I'm not interested in living like two peas in a pod. I think it's really important that you are two separate entities who keep changing, but you
Cohabitate.
Yeah. So we live together. We still have our relationship, our friendship, but we're definitely two separate entities going through our life and, you know, changing, and it makes it more interesting, actually. But he's not a man who will actively try and fix things. He's definitely someone who's, because he's a writer, he's in his head a lot of the time, making stuff up, thinking things up, going for walks and working through storylines and story plots. So I think I'm more the fix-it person, actually. I think that's definitely our dynamic.
Okay, so based on you guys knowing each other so well, and the fact that you've been in your marriage for well over a decade, what would you give tips for newlyweds?
Tips for newlyweds?
Because we have a few of them listening.
I hope so.
We're an all-encompassing.
Well, at any age, you could be a newlywed too, couldn't you?
Well,
like you might be on your second marriage, or
yeah, exactly. I would just say if you're entering into a relationship and you think it's going to be for the long haul, Definitely maintain your own interests, maintain your own friends, encourage them to maintain their own friendships. I think we have a separate group of friends and we occasionally hook up. We have our together friends, and then I have my bunch of friends, and so we have quite separate lives, but there are a lot of things that we do together. So I think it's maintaining a healthy balance of who you are as an individual and then who you are as a couple. I think because I just think it's a healthier balance psychologically and emotionally.
And let me ask you, one more thing? Do we have one more question?
Yeah, we got time for one more.
One more.
For Georgie.
What would be your perfect date night with your hubby?
Oh, okay. So I know this. It's very simple. It's not, crazy. I love food. So I would want to go to a beautiful restaurant, and it doesn't have to be expensive, just a fun, great atmosphere, really good food, and then go to a movie.
Perfect.
Or go to the theatre.
Won't that be great when we get to do that again?
It's so important. Theatre's in dire straits at the moment, and I think we'll be back in cinemas before we'll be back in the theatre. But yeah, so I'm putting it out there.
Yeah.
What's your dream date?
Like as in with you?
Well, one would hope so, but
Do you
maybe
mean
not.
with Brad Pitt?
No,
Wait,
I'm
okay.
allowing. You're actually getting a hall pass right now. Okay.
No. With you, the simpler things are always my favorite things to do with you. I love when we go on road trips. I love a good road trip with you because that's where we have our best conversations as well. So a road trip somewhere yummy to eat, maybe an overnight stay. Yeah. Open fire, good book. Yeah.
No, you're not allowed to bring a book.
Maybe if we read to each other, I don't know.
You had me at open fire.
Tell us quickly, what's your dream date?
Look, I'm going to say glamping. And it's got to be somewhere where the sea meets the mountains. So it can, have the fresh air and a surf and a fish and a open bonfire or something and tent. That's warm and cozy. I don't need to do the uncomfortable thing anymore, but which I did a lot of that. It's just not good.
No, glamping, flushing toilet, warm, beautiful bed.
Yeah. Hot running water, preferably, if possible.
Yeah, and great food. Hey, my love, thanks so much for joining us. Great to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you too. It's so lovely to see you, Ali.
I know, you too. I feel like I know you already, having watched you all through my years, and now you're working again with Cam. And I have to say, I was talking to my dad this morning, and I said, Georgie Parker's coming on our podcast. I got more excitement from my dad than I've heard in weeks. I literally think you lifted his spirits during this time than anything else, knowing that you were coming on the podcast. He goes, I love her. And I said, I know. Isn't she gorgeous? He goes, he said, you can just tell she's a nice person.
Oh, he sounds gorgeous.
And he will listen to this, so I'm not gonna finish this with a dig saying, well, he is 84.
No, he will now that Georgie's on.
Take good care, sweetie. Bye.
Bye. Bye.